5 skills to advance your career. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the focus group, now in our 15th year. This is Tim Bennett with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. How are you, Mr. Nash?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's 5 skills you need for your career. It's kind of like when we used to call the Schul's house, he is risen, hallelujah.
He is risen. With full transparency, I'm getting over some sort of bug. So John had made mention when we came on, I didn't even look at my hair, but it looks like some sort of millennial when they do all the gel in the hair or something. But
it's a good reason to watch YouTube this week if you don't want to just listen to the show.
I've got one of those fashion-forward hairdos, I guess is what we would call it. So thanks for joining us here. As always, we are the focus group, and thanks to our friends at Deep Discount for bringing us to you each week. Learn more about John and myself, or John and me, at focusgroupradio.com. While you're there, you'll also find our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released each week on Tuesdays. And so all of our media is housed there for a free download. So be sure to take it with you and enjoy.
I got a super weird one for you. This was going to be a caught my eye, but I decided instead to just discuss it with you because the headline is crazy. Comes to us from India, and the headline is "Groom Dies from an Exploding Wedding Gift." It was from his bride's ex.
Ooh.
Long story short, this guy gives newlyweds a home entertainment system. A couple of days after they get it, they're unwrapping the thing, and they're setting it up, and one of them says, okay, plug it in. When they plug it in, it goes off, and it kills the groom and his brother, and I think it injured a few other people.
Oh, my God. So it was a bomb or something?
And the guy planted an ammonia, nitrate, petrol, and gunpowder bomb. And he used to, somehow the ex of this woman knew how to do this from his previous job. But here's the part that just sets this story over the edge. Police said Markham, who was the ex-guy who created the bomb, confessed to rigging the gift with explosives as he was angry with his ex-girlfriend for getting married. The two broke up recently after the now widowed bride found out he was already married with 2 sons. So the guy that created the bomb was married with 2 sons, had been lying to the woman, his old girlfriend, who then just got married to this new guy, and he decided to blow the,
Wow.
Tell me you can make this crap up, right?
Well, I guess I would, if you had a ex, obviously this didn't end well, and they sent a gift, would you be suspect?
The police went right. Apparently in the article, yes, Tim, very good. Good deduction. I'm glad to see you're channeling Sherlock Holmes because when you go to the circle of suspects, like who could it possibly be, right? You're like, okay, it's.
Well, she obviously knew it came from the ex, but if the ex all of a sudden look at Billy sent us a little wedding gift, isn't that sweet? I'd be like, I could stay outside. I don't know if
then the other side of this tells you how stupid is this?
Yeah.
So the guy that blows up the new groom had a whole other life with sons and another wife when he's dating this woman, and he's pissed that she's getting married even though he has his whole other life. And then he labels the gift he gives them from Markham.
Right. So
Enjoy.
He's gonna go to jail. Jeez. That's a good one. Yeah.
Tim, you just can't make any of this crap up, can you?
No, but you see crazy things that people do, and you just shake your head. I go down the TikTok hole sometimes, and I just laugh because they had some woman, and I showed it to Richard while I was sick laying down, and I just busted up laughing. I was scrolling through. They don't really say why, but there's a middle-aged woman, nicely dressed, and she's taking the big glass candles that they have at Walmart, and she starts screaming like a lunatic and throwing these candles like over the aisles, and they're crashing and they're breaking. And she says, "Black Lives Matter, my pussy matters." And she's throwing this stuff, the glass, everything's breaking. And all the help is just standing there going, ma'am, ma'am.
They're not allowed to get any more. Yeah, okay.
And with everyone she throws, she kept screaming the same thing over and over again. "Black Lives Matter, my pussy matters." And she'd throw them, and stuff's broken. There's glass all over the place. I thought, what set her off? Anyway.
there's so many things to unpack about that. First of all, she decided to toss candlesticks that are made of glass, right?
Huge, like the
Big
candles and big candles that you
holder
would,
things.
Yeah,
Then, of course, somehow Black Lives Matter's tied
came
into
into play.
her,
Yeah.
yeah, into her vaginal health. Who cares? just can't, like.
Yeah, there was a whole thing. There was a whole thing about the craziness of Walmart, and there was another one that I loved. People were going to buy TV sets, and they'd buy a new, big, large, huge TV set, and then would come back with their old TV, with the
And
receipt
claim.
for the new one, and try to return it. And on and on and on. People would say, "Well, the serial numbers don't match. Where's the box?" Da, 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 da. And they say, "Oh no, this is the TV." And some Walmart employee came on and said, "Oh, it happens 2 or 3 times a day."
My God, my
Can you
God.
imagine?
Yeah,
We
Hey,
would
look,
be
no.
horrible.
I
Working
can't
at
imagine.
customer
I was
service.
I was at Uniqlo getting rid of a T-shirt or exchanging it. I bought a large T-shirt. I get home, I put it on. It looked like it was made for someone
A
like
dolly. Too
10
small.
times larger than me.
Oh,
So I
it's
go
too
back
big.
and I exchange it for a medium, but I don't bother trying it on. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, a medium. I don't bother, but it still looks like it's huge. So I go to just return it, and the guy says to me, Did you take the tags off?" I said, "Yeah, I took the tags off because I thought it was going to be in its forever home. I was going to throw it in the laundry and use it, but I didn't." I have to get the manager, and I said, "What's the deal here? Did you guys change your sizes?" I said, "Uniqlo used to be really precise about sizing." I said, like as in Chinese or Japanese, meaning if it says a 34 waist, it's a 34 waist. It's not like vanity, like 34 is really 35, right? He goes and he comes back and he had taken one of these things off another shelf and he holds the tag up to me and he goes, "It says T-shirt large, oversize."
Oh,
I said, "What's an oversize?" He goes, "It's a look. It's a hip hop thing." So while this is happening, there's a woman next to me trying to return a pair of pants. The manager's there the whole bit, no receipts. The manager keeps saying, "We've never sold these. We've never sold these pants. You could not have bought them here." Blah,
I
blah,
bought
blah,
them
blah,
here.
blah. The customer insisted until she got some kind of a rebate. And after she left, everybody's just standing there. And I look at the manager and I said, "I guess the customer's always right." And she goes, "Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually."
I see. I would not give in, but I don't know what.
Yeah, oh, come on. I learned that lesson at Marshall's when someone
That's
brought
what
a
I
pair of
mean.
shoes
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
I said to the woman, I said, these things look like they've been around the world in 80 days plus a couple on top of that. Where's your manager? The heels were all scratched
Everybody
up.
said they looked like they were well-worn shoes. She was going to return them. They don't fit. Really?
Looks like you wore the hell out of them.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Ella Bean used to talk about that too. The things that people would try to return. But people have no accounting for the ballsiness.
Behavior.
One time a friend of mine's mom, I don't know if I told you this, we were trying to get into, this is before copiers and all the great things. This is in the 80s. And we were trying to get into a regatta. And you needed to have a special pass. And we found out that the pass was kind of the chartreuse screen color. So I went out and bought a piece of oak tag, and my friend Scott got a Sharpie. And we thought we would just replicate the parking pass to get into the regatta. And we pull up and the police look, and we give it to Scott's mother, Mrs. McIntyre. She very confidently hands it to the police. He's like, "Lady," he said, "are you kidding me?" And calls over the other police, and they're laughing. They said, "Because this is the worst one of the day," he goes, "I got to let you through." He says, "The fact that you would even present it to me, I have to let you through." She said, "Thank you," and off he went in.
So she won because it was the worst forgery they'd seen.
But they were screaming, laughing. They said, "Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?" It was all, the letters went big and small. I mean, it was horrible. It was, yeah. But she had no problem handing it to the cop, and she's like, "Thank you." And off we went. But yeah, people, if you act enough, have enough confidence, sometimes you get through. But with the returning of things, it's
that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
whole other thing. So we have how the show works. We have a little banter. Then we have our business birthday, and caught my eye. And our shop talk today is about some career advice. I don't know if I agree with all of it, but I think some of it's just
Yeah,
basic.
you and I are going to be having a talk about that.
Just some basic advice about 5 skills that will help you advance your career. So without further ado, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I've got a cute one. It's not a long one, but I think it's a cute one. A typewriter repair slash store. Typewriter now. We're talking mechanical, right? Like we all used to I learned on a Royal. We all had Smith Corona in college with the swap out cartridges. In Massachusetts, this store gets a mysterious FedEx package, and it came to them from none other than actor Tom Hanks, who Tim had the pleasure of meeting actually at was it the Vanity Fair or the Elton John Awards?
Elton John party.
After party, at the after party. Yeah. So it's called the Cambridge Typewriter Company received an unexpected FedEx package from Mr. Nice Guy himself, superstar Tom Hanks. The owner of this store, Cambridge Typewriter, his name is Tom Furrier, and he said that he made a post about it and called it, this is the typewriter from Saving Private Ryan. He said, "We got a wonderful surprise in the mail today. FedEx dropped off a big box that was obviously a typewriter. Couldn't figure out who from Santa Monica, California was sending me a repair. I curiously opened up the box to find an Olympia SM4 from Tom Hanks himself. So the Academy Award-winning actor sent it as a gift. I am presenting you with this typewriter to do with as you please." Hanks had typed out because Hanks loves typewriters. I'm thinking of typewriters myself. "Service it, keep as is, repair and keep or sell, display or use." He went on to say the company was doing him a favor by giving him more space and less clutter by accepting the large Olympia SM4 typewriter. "I'm very happy that Tom included us in his plan to whittle down his typewriter inventory," because Tom Hanks actually has, I think, a very large collection of mechanical typewriters. What a wonderful surprise. So included in the box was a towel, for a golf club bag, and a couple other things, and of course the hand typed letter from Tom Hanks. But I just thought it was adorable that Hanks clearly has an idea of where these actual repair stores and stuff are, and he signed the typewriter. If you're watching on YouTube, he signed the top with a little gold Sharpie or something, and it's Tom Hanks. And I mean, here you go. Like, this guy could either have it on display, or you could easily sell it as a Tom Hanks typewriter, right?
Yeah. What movie did it come from?
No, it didn't come from a movie. It just came from his collection.
They had. I laughed at it because I think it's the second paragraph. It says, "On one hand, you are taking." Is it off my shelf?
"On one hand, you are taking off my shelf."
But it looks like did they misspell?
"Out in the greater world." No, remember how the typewriters used to have problems like the G would fill in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I loved about it. I was looking at it.
And then he said, "On the other hand, you are giving me more space and less clutter. On the third hand, question mark, you just may be giving this miracle of a machine a fuller, newer life of use." Like, what a miracle of a machine. Tim, didn't you tell me a while ago that was it the German intelligence agencies don't use computers, they use typewriters?
Yeah, they went back to using typewriters for top secret messages because they were being hacked so much by the Russians and so they were just doing everything on typewriter and hand deliver because there was no chance of it getting in the wrong hands, being intercepted.
So we were watching Parks and Recreation, and just randomly I found this article. About an hour later, we were watching Parks and Rec while eating lunch, and the Amy Poehler character is going to give a speech, and it turns out that a woman in the audience stole all her jokes. And this other guy, the guy Ron, who's like the woodsman, whatever, she's like, "How did this happen? How did it get hacked?" And he just simply says, "You can't hack a typewriter." And I just thought, of your German comment about,
Yeah, very much so. I like that's a good one. And well thought by
Tom Hanks. Yeah.
Mine is a little different, of course, and that's the joy of the caught my eyes. The headline in this is "Manual Transmission Thwarts Alleged Teenage Hijackers." So this happened in Germantown, Maryland. Anyone who knows me who's listened to the show a lot, in my former life when I worked at Subaru, one of the goals I would give any employee who worked with me, was that they had to learn how to drive a manual transmission car, because we sold those, and you work for a car company, and you never know when you might have to move one or drive one or have to drive a manual shift car, or a manual transmission car. So here we have had these people work for me that have been fine, but they ended up stealing a car. There were two teenagers at a Sunoco station in Germantown, Maryland. It was a Saturday afternoon. The surveillance footage shows when they were 16 and 17, they yanked the driver from the vehicle. They entered the front seats. They insisted that they give them the keys or whatever. The man had just finished pumping gas. So when they forced open and grabbed him out, threw him out, they gave the keys. The victims get in the car, and you can see this all on surveillance video. And then they're in there, and the car is just sitting there, and they're just sitting in the car as they puzzle over the controls, and the car just remains motionless. They didn't know what to do. So unable to drive a manual transmission, they jumped out and they fled on foot, and the police caught them a short time later. They've been charged as adults, 1 count of carjacking, 1 count of conspiracy carjacking, and they were jailed without bond. But I laughed because I thought, here they thought they probably had this hot little sports car. They get in there and they don't know how to drive a manual transmission.
I can't tell our listeners enough about manual stick driving. I was taught by Tim. So my dad taught me a lot of my driving skills when he would come home from work at night. So I learned how to drive at night, in an automatic car. But Tim insisted that I learn manual, and we did this in Mary's old red Beetle that had like the running boards. The floor was almost not there. Memorial School parking lot. I remember there was a little hill at the one end of the parking lot that you would go up to this other part of the playground. And I used to have to sit at the bottom of the hill and go up a little bit and then put the car, stop it. You're at a traffic light. You're in somewhere. You're in a hill. Like, what are you going to do? And I would grind anyway. And then Tim, remember when we did our cross country trip in the Beetle?
Yeah, we had
It was manual, and it took me a good I don't know how many miles to get used to it again. And of course, there were times when we would get off the highway and I would do something, and Tim goes, "Glad it's not ours."
Well, you would throw it from 5th until 2nd.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to. I think it's good to know how to drive those. Drive
and
a
you know
manual
why?
Transmission. Although fewer and fewer are being made, but
go to Europe. Go to Europe.
Yeah.
Get off a plane, rent a car. Automatic, you pay a premium for an automatic car.
Yeah.
Everybody over there knows how to drive stick. And I'll just finish this little thing for you. When we were in Avignon, we were visiting France. I was the only one who could drive stick. And I couldn't get the car in reverse, no matter what I did. And finally, we're sitting in front of a police station. The car is literally almost pressing against a gate to a police station. And I see this little button on the side of the stick shift. And I thought, Tim said something about this button. And I couldn't remember what. And finally I push it. It took me into reverse.
There you go.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It was this little thing that would allow the car to do that.
Yeah. No, it's a good skill to have. I think when we were in the islands one time too, cars were all
all stick.
All stick. And people go.
Although, Tim, you're talking about St. Bart's.
Yeah.
And you and I did not even want to dream of. But I think you did drive. Did you drive there?
I drove the. I think we got a Jeep. And then we
it
got
was a
Moke,
Jeep. Yeah.
We were looking at the Mokes, but yeah, and a couple of times, and I got the cars. But I think it's a good skill to have, and I think people should learn. I'm trying to get Richard to learn. He refuses, but I don't have a manual transmission car, nor do I know anybody who owns one.
I don't either.
Although Mark might have one. I've got a.
Tim,
Mark
what's your
Tipkin
little sports car?
It's not. Everything's
It's
automatic
automatic
now. Yeah, everything's automatic. Nobody has anything that's. Everything's automatic now, and they're even stopped making. Auto companies are really stopped making sedans and regular
Wagons.
passenger cars. Yeah. Everybody wants an SUV. So.
Well, hey, our newest Volkswagen doesn't have a key. There's no key.
Yeah.
It's a fob, right? But remember when you used to have a key?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what caught my eye.
Yeah. All right, folks. We're going to take a super quick break here, and when we return, we have a business birthday. We're the only show in the universe that gives you business birthdays. And as Tim alluded to earlier in the broadcast, we have a shop talk for you about how to improve your career. We both have an opinion on this piece. So we'll share that with you when we return after this little break.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Without further ado, we have a business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Celebrating today, April 12th, if she were alive, would be Ellen Gaunt Smith, or Ella Smith. And she was born April 12th, 1868. She died April 2nd, 1932, at 63 years old. She was an innovative American doll manufacturer. So she graduated from LaGrange College in Georgia. She married a guy named Sam Smith, and she had to begin working as a seamstress because she was a teacher. And at that time, teachers were not allowed to be married. So she had to quit the teaching profession and do something else.
Well, teachers were not allowed to be married?
Nope.
What kind of bullshit is that?
Well, it's Georgia.
1868.
But,
Okay,
but
go
it's
on. Sorry.
but it's probably the whole country. So she started as a seamstress, but she found a forte. She would spend years repairing broken bisque, bisque dolls.
Yeah, bisque. Yeah.
Which were brought to her by neighbors, and she would experiment on ways to how to make sturdier dolls in her part time. So she eventually turned to doll manufacturing full time. She's selling mostly to friends and neighbors. She experienced some early success, so she exhibited her dolls at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. That World's Fair, I'll tell you what, that 1904 World's Fair has got all kinds of stuff coming out of it.
Tim, you said it was St. Louis?
Yeah.
Not the Chicago one that had a Ferris wheel?
No, this is 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. And she won the grand prize for innovation and to help establish a nationwide market for her product. She received a patent for her design in 1905. And then she goes on to describe how the product was. But she... At the time between 1899 and 1932, she had a backyard factory. She employed 12 women, and they produced $8,000 to $10,000 a year. The dolls were known as Ella Smith dolls or Alabama babies. They were also called Roanoke Indestructible dolls or Alabama Indestructible dolls because of their heavy cotton frame and stout plaster Paris heads. It was said that a truck could drive over one of these dolls without damaging it.
A truck? Okay.
Yeah, the prices range from $1.15 to $12.15, depending upon the size and clothing. What's interesting, she was a tenth of her dolls, so 10% of the dolls were painted black to resemble African American girls. She was the first manufacturer to market dolls based on people of African descent in the southern United States, and they probably think overall globally. So she way ahead of her time. Can you imagine?
I'm that piece of data alone, because we always thought that innovation was more modern.
Yeah.
In terms of showing your own skin color for the doll collection.
Yeah. No, she did it way back then. So, and obviously they were well accepted. Her dolls became more sophisticated as her business grew. She would outfit them with lace dresses, wigs of real human hair. She also made bunnies, Easter eggs, and artificial fruit. She held 11 patents at the time of her death. She was an interesting character around the Roanoke community. They said she would typically wore a long black dress with a matching cloak and often walked around with a hymn-singing parrot on her shoulder.
Wait. A parrot that was singing hymns.
Amazing grace. Imagine. See, this is our thing, John. We need a shtick. So she, So she planned to expand her operation, but a train wreck caused the disastrous loss of many of her orders. So she had a lawsuit and ended up killing her business, essentially.
Wow.
She, because of this train accident. She ended up suffering from diabetes and kidney disease and died in 1932. She's buried in Roanoke, Alabama.
Roanoke,
Alabama. Not Roanoke, Virginia. Roanoke,
yeah,
Alabama.
Thank you, because I was literally just going to say, let me correct you on that one.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Ella Smith.
Where did you find her?
So it was tough to find somebody for this day.
I like this business birthday, by the way. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, and she's
American Girl before American Girl.
American Girl before American Girl, exactly. It was some obscure site because I couldn't find, and she was listed under entrepreneurs, and there were a lot of people who did software and some things that just I didn't find interesting, but I thought her story was interesting. So
I like her story, and I'm just always surprised where your search terms. I have to admit, there are times when I've been like troubleshooting, and you and I will be on the phone together, and you'll say, well, try typing this in. Like, I used to think I was the king of the search term for And then you would have me put something in. I'm like, no, I never thought of that. So
Yeah, it's you never know. You never know what you pull up. But anyway, yeah. So I found her. It wasn't through one of my usual places because I checked the 3 or 4 places I usually go. If I don't, I go to NNDB
yes,
is where I usually start, and if I don't find anything there, then I have to go down into the rabbit hole. There's a Canadian site. There's an Indian site. There's an African American site. There's a number of different sites I go to, but to try to find birthdays of business people, which is not easy to do. Which is why we thought we should do a book, but apparently there's no market for it.
we need to revisit that. I know you're collecting all of these. I've seen the folder in the Dropbox.
Yeah,
I'm convinced that if we just came up with a format and call, because I think they're fascinating. And anyway, we need to revisit that. It's not going to make $1 million, but if it made $500,000, I'd be happy.
If it made 10 cents, we'd be happy. We don't have anything else, right? We should have sold socks. I mean, we're going to go in with the coulda, woulda, shoulda. There's another thing this weekend I thought of you and I should have come up with. I forgot what it was now, though.
There you go.
So that's our business birthday. So as many of you know, Shop Talk is a feature of our show here. And this week we have an article from Fast Company, which says you need to develop this top skill to advance your career. Here's 5 ways to do it. So this was from Dr. Carol Dweck, based on her research of students and how they react to failure or challenge. And so she had decided that what distinguishes successful people is how they approach life's challenges rather than their talents, education, or innate skills. So those who possess a growth mindset know that something will go wrong at some point, so you must be prepared and resilient in order to turn challenges into opportunities for you, your team, and your company. And then she goes through what the 5 skills are that you should develop to advance your career, or how you would develop this growth skill with these 5 different areas. So do you want to go through the first one?
I do, and I also want to say that the setup for this article I liked a great deal. That one finding, or that sentence you read, what distinguishes successful people is how they approach life's challenges rather than their talents, education, or innate skills. I would say that the back end of that sentence, talent, education, and skill set, feed into the front end, which is how you approach a challenge. But I do think this is a fascinating thing because problem solving is one thing. Challenges are unexpected. It kind of goes into I've been trying to revise it because people think it's negative, but plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? So you're never going to plan for every bad outcome. But if you think about it, when it arrives, it's going to be easier to roll with the punches, right? So she broke this down, as Tim said, into a bunch of different sections or thought processes here. And let me get down to the first one here. What did she say? Why am I skipping here?
The first one was set personal goals quarterly.
Yes.
And go ahead.
This one was, first of all, if you're going to set a personal goal every quarter, you have to define what is a personal goal. And could it be something as simple as I'm going to keep my closets clean, or I'm going to keep my desk free of clutter? Would you put that in there?
I'm going to answer all my email within 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that. I thought this one was, so essentially what she's saying is don't create goals that are unrealistic or you can't reach them, because then you'll be deflated, right? So that's the bottom line here. I remember talking to a long distance runner once and asking him, you may do this with you when you cycle. I said, how do you keep yourself going with the monotonous of running a half marathon or a marathon? He said, you always have to make a deal with yourself. He said, I would always look forward and say, you see that telephone pole, or you see that tree, or he just says, you pick a landmark and you tell your body, you tell yourself, I'm going to get there. And then when you get there, you make another deal. And he goes, and eventually you're done with the race. And that's how he used to say he would get through some of this monotony of the long distance running. But so for the personal goal thing, I thought the same thing. Unless you had some very specific A to B things you could do. But if you said, I want to make $1 million next month, well, that's unrealistic. I mean, you might.
And you'll end up being disappointed, right? Disappointed.
Yeah. So number 2 was encourage creativity when you are part of a team. So they talked about something about a ratio of 3 positives versus 1 negative as a ratio for contributions. But essentially, when you work in a team, you can build on others' thoughts as well as offer critique. And it's okay to have ideas that might not work or might be picked up by your other teammates. So it's essentially working in a group. I find that this does work well.
I agree.
If you have a challenge and you want to work together, I mean, you and I play off things sometimes. You might say something, I say something, we end up at a different place or a better place, but we both contribute, and then you end up with, hopefully being in the right place.
Yeah, I would add to what you said. As a creative director, when I used to sit down with our team, maybe it's copy people, account people, or even my assistant art directors, I used to basically, when we did idea sessions, I would basically say, no idea is off the table. No idea is bad. We're not going to critique anything, until we basically just throw everything out there. And that absolute ad that you liked that I did, the ruler with every mark being an 8-inch thing, that came out of that kind of free-form conversation. And an idea popped in my head. I'm like, what about this? And it became the thing. But when you let people know that they can have fun, as if you're a kid, we're going to play with Play-Doh. There's no such thing as a bad thing, right?
Yep.
Now, this next one, Tim, optimism bias works. So we all know that we all have built-in biases towards things, things we like, things we don't like. And it reads like this. It is now well documented that being predisposed to thinking optimistically can manifest in more positive outcomes. According to neuroscientist Tali Sharrow, in order to develop our optimism bias, we need to believe that we can do even better in the future than we are now. This belief helps to build resilience and a sense of progression and growth. I think that I like the idea of an optimism bias, but I think also that life kind of gets in the way and interferes in optimism sometimes. If you're not fully yourself, if you're not 100%, you're not feeling well, there's an issue going on, things creep in to undermine that. So I'm not sure I could rely on that.
Really try.
Believe, really believe.
I mean, it's
the same
everybody
thing.
always says, everyone always says you need to be optimistic, you need to be more positive. This goes back to what you said earlier about plan or expect the worst, expect the
Plan
best,
for the worst, hope for the best. Yeah.
Hope for the best. But they say a more optimistic outlook would hopefully
Helpful.
have would be helpful. Number 4, allow yourself to fail. Part of building our resilience and optimism is knowing that in reality there are times when we may fail, and that's okay. So try not to not try something new or not move an idea forward will prevent us from progressing. You and I have done this in our business. I was thinking about this. We had gone on an AM all talk format in New York City on a Friday night. We did a show called The Random Sample on WWRL. I think.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
But then you and I hired a PR firm to help with social media stuff. We changed the show to video format. We added podcasts. So you and I have always tried
experimented
to do something different. But I don't think we went into it. If something didn't work, we just stopped it. But I don't think we ever said it was a failure.
No.
Right? It just didn't work. But maybe that is a failure. I don't know.
Yes. So my takeaway you're 100% correct, Tim. We've walked away from some of the initiatives that we started thinking we were going to get a different outcome.
Right.
But you and I never looked back on it and said, oh boy, did we fall on our asses. Instead, we usually had a couple hilarious stories about it, including the AM station.
Yeah. And if you don't do anything different, you don't know. And that was always the thing that you and I did is let's try something different this year. We always try something different because you have to see something might have worked. I mean, the AM radio thing in Manhattan was, well, I don't know what that was. I mean, that was interesting. I mean, when you think about it, who gives you a radio show in New York City on an AM or talk radio station, right?
Had we thought more carefully, we would have looked at how many AM stations there could possibly be. No, you and I just thought anything to give us more audience, more traction,
exposure,
and get more listeners, people interested in what Tim and John have to say. I would say the failure thing I find to be more appropriate for when I studied animation, for example. That was a super hard lesson for me to learn repeatedly when I would turn in work or not get a concept and basically feel like I was failing or not getting it. And you had these professional animators and mentors saying, hey, if you don't fail, you're never going to learn. You got to make the mistakes and you've got to fall flat on your ass, and then you're going to get up and you're going to do better the next time. So I guess it depends.
Why did that bother you?
Oh, extremely. Yeah.
Why was that?
Because I was with students who got like every class, let's say we had 7 kids or 7 individuals. They weren't kids. And there was always one that just got it, and you just knew that they had the talent, and everybody else sort of struggled with some of the concepts. And I just thought, I should know this. I should get this immediately. I'm a smart guy. I do really well in advertising. I've done well in these other areas. It was a real humbling and learning lesson for me, and I think that I now believe fully that if I don't fail at something, I might not be doing it right. Right?
Yeah, but I would not label your degree and your time spent on animation as a failure.
Oh, no. I say to people all the time, I can animate. I could be a character animator. I need 9,000 more hours of practice, but I know the principles.
Practice makes perfect.
Well, they claim that every skill, if you're really, really good at something, you've had 10,000 hours of time
Really?
doing it. You know for a fact you've had 10,000 hours of doing director of marketing and stuff, right?
Wow. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Oh, no, Tim, you were there for, you had to have, and I had to have at least 10,000 hours of doing advertising, creative direction,
Yeah.
whatever else I've done. This was an area where I know what to do. And if I return to it, and I plan to return to it as a hobby and something I'm going to really enjoy, I have a great basis, a foundation to begin with, knowing now, okay, I know I did this, I learned it, I didn't fail, but I did fail some of the lessons. I didn't fail school, but anyway, this last one here?
What was the fifth one?
Be human. I guess that's what we're kind of talking about right now. Bringing your human to work. Being vulnerable and authentic isn't just good for our own well-being, but it allows others to feel like they can do the same. And she says here, an environment where authenticity is encouraged. And authenticity is a word we hear all the time.
Yeah.
Tim and I hear the word authentic is all through advertising and marketing, and it's overused. It's encouraged and it supports feedback to be given in all directions. Without a culture of feedback, positive and constructive, it is impossible to grow and develop regardless of level of salary. One of the critical components of developing a growth mindset is that it is not static. This is something I always need to be reminded of. Just because you demonstrated it once doesn't mean you have to do it for life. It is active and evolving. So I agree with this one, but I guess this goes hand in hand with that last thing I was talking about. It's humbling, it's et cetera. But, I always think about when your stories from your days at Subaru as a boss and how you would handle, how would you manage your staff? And you did it by being a human being. One of my favorite examples is you would call people in and say, if you've been on the road and you've been traveling, just walk out quietly, get your laundry, do your stuff, get it done. Yeah. But you're basically doing when you did that was you're like, I know who you are. I'm a human as well. I have dry cleaning. You know what I mean? You're relatable.
Relatable. Right. And you trust that they're going to get their work done. But,
yeah,
it's so much. And I think the pandemic certainly has changed attitudes about how productive people are, whether, do you need to sit at a desk in a cubicle from 8:30 until 5 o'clock at night?
And maybe do nothing because you're just bored, right? But you're there. You showed up.
Which, no, it's that would be the one good thing I would talk about with the pandemic is that we've proved that you can get work done at other times. Some people work better. You work better at night. I work better in the morning. That's always been the way. You do a lot of your work at night. I do a lot of mine in the early morning. That's just the way you're wired, and same with me. But there's no right or wrong about it. It's just
the way it is.
It's just the way it is. So yeah.
Well, that was a good shop talk, Tim. Thanks for finding that. I think that we agreed with most of what the author had to say. There's shades of differentiation in there, but I guess it all comes down to there's no one perfect way of getting something done or organizing an office or motivating a team. There's all different tactics, and a lot of it starts with how personable you are, relatable, and I think and how bring your human to work, right, as she said.
Well, the one piece that's missing out of all this stuff, I think, is what kind of culture is around.
Are you fostering and creating?
Right, in the company. So, some of these things may work well at some places and not others because the culture just doesn't accept it.
Yeah. Culture at Moon City when I was business partners with Greg and he'd have a highball at 3 p.m. That's the culture.
That's the culture.
Hey, we want to wrap it up there, folks. We want to thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. FocusGroupRadio.com is the URL for our show. If you go to the site, you'll learn about TFG Unbuttoned. That's our Tuesday podcast. And you'll also learn about our partners. In particular, here on the Focus Group, we love you to check out Deep Discount. You can go to their site by clicking on their logo at our page, or it's deepdiscount.com, and check out all the amazing media, toys, vinyl, shirts. The list goes on that they have that you can check out for purchase. So I'm going to end by saying, and I saw a lot of this on the road the other day, don't text and drive, please. Arrive alive. The phone is just not worth looking at. It just really isn't. And if you have to, pull over. It's going to take you an extra 5 minutes, unless you're, just pull over. Anyway, don't text and drive, arrive alive. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.